We are back. It is the fun half, ladies and gentlemen. Emma is out. Let's read a couple of IMs, shall we? The other russet. Well, this is going to be another rough Pesach Seder. Jimmy Pesto, #1 superfan, had a little tea ache. I see. Had a little TH say last night and started wondering if Trump plans on devaluing the dollar in order to create a digital alternative that he controls. I know he's a dumbass, but he's always cared so much about stock performance that the tariff crash makes me think there's a bigger plan, and I worry it involves crypto. Listen, I do not think, I think we're in a realm right now where it is hard to say that any theory you have when you're high or not is completely out of bounds. There is no one in the administration. Let's put it this way. The administration doesn't even seem to have a unified message as to why they're doing this.
And what success would look like.
They don't have a unified message why they're doing it or what it's supposed to, what's supposed to happen. Like, it's one thing to say, we think it's 2 + 5 = 8. And this is why we think it's the case, because secretly 5 is 6 or secretly 2 is 3. But in this analogy, we don't even know what the 8 is. Like, they don't even have an equals. Some members of the administration say this is a way to get down their tariffs. Some members of the administration have said this is a way to raise money. Some members of the administration have said this is going to bring back robot jobs to America. There's no even agreement over what the goal of this is, never mind how it's supposed to achieve a certain goal. So there is no idea. There is no idea that is too crazy, I think, to try and assess why Trump is doing this. It could be just crazy. It could be he's crazy and he thinks he's figured out a way to profit off of it. But just to give you a taste of like, and listen, and you know this because the only people who are now defending this are total Trump dead enders. And they have no, we played a clip earlier at the beginning of the show from Dave Rubin where he's saying like, well, if tariffs were bad, why would other countries have tariffs? I mean, this is just nonsensical gibberish. But let's play Steve Doocy on Fox and Friends going over a story, and you'll just notice the rest of them are just sitting there like literally like their dog just died because they don't know what to say in light of what is so obviously what was going to happen here. Good.
There's an item in the New York Post that we all have in front of us. It's an exclusive story.
I just also want to say, the New York Post, incidentally, if you're not familiar with New York newspapers, is a right-wing Rupert Murdoch, like, just dog cleaning utensil. So this is not coming from the Times. This is not coming from,
the Wall Street Journal.
Wall Street Journal or the New Republic. It's coming from the Post.
There's an item in the New York Post that we all have in front of us. It's an exclusive story, and it talks about how with these 104% tariffs that went into effect, we think that China is going to have to pay for it, but it tells a story of a special needs toy importer. And when the tariffs went into effect at midnight, his tariff, he's been paying a tariff because he gets stuff from China, $26,000 a year. His tariff bill went from $26,000 at midnight to $346,000. and that's money he's got to have to come out of his pocket. It sounds like he's going to have to go ahead and close down part of his business. He tried to make the toys in the United States, but the tariff on that, his most popular item, went from $0 to $17 at midnight. And what he told the New York Post is people don't understand the tariff situation. They think just foreign countries are paying for the tariffs. That's not true. Half of the tariffs are being paid for by U.S.-based companies. Yeah. So when you look at the big numbers and they look good, just remember that according to this guy, half of the small businesses and half of the tariffs are being paid by Americans.
Well, I'll say this. I'm still holding back judgment on this because I feel like we may be missing something here.
Oh, yeah, we might.
The way I look at it is I have two groups of friends. I have my more wealthy friends, the ones that are on Wall Street and all that. And then I have my friends that are in the farming community, middle class. They're cheering it on. Yeah. Meanwhile, my friends that are more rich and wealthy are ticked off. Huh. And so they're... Look, I watched the president yesterday.
Let me just tell you about his friends in the farms. If his buddies in the farms have anything to do with soybeans, they're a little bit upset today because their product just got hit with an 84% tariff in China. Or if they're working in aircrafts or engines or integrated circuits or pharmaceuticals or petroleum or any products that's exporting. Now, that's today. But tomorrow, when whatever they got to buy starts to shoot up, it's going to be a different story. This is not just Wall Street that's they're complaining because there's people on Wall Street who are like over leveraged and they're worried.
This guy is a Idaho-based toy maker. I may sound calm on the phone, but I'm really not, Ames told the Post. I'm afraid my employees won't make it through real jobs on the line and at risk. We have tried domestic production. Getting an ad here. Can't pivot that quickly. We've explored domestic production in the past and are again right now. And every time it's not feasible, the unit prices have been higher than retail.
See if this link works. This is from the South China Morning Post. It is based in Hong Kong. Chinese exporters said to be ditching shipments mid-voyage to avoid crushing Trump tariffs. I'll read from this. Does that open it up for you? Okay. Yep, industry insiders have dubbed the move "preparing for the long march," a grim metaphor for what might be seen as prolonged and punishing downturn in cross-Pacific trade. It's a staff member at a China-listed export company who requested anonymity said its U.S.-bound container volume had plummeted from 40 to 50 containers a day to just 3 to 6 as a result of the new tariffs on Chinese imports. We've halted all shipping plans from the Philippines, Vietnam, Indonesia, and Malaysia. Every factory order is halted. Anything that hasn't been loaded will be scrapped. The cargo already at sea is being recosted. One client had told the company it was abandoning goods already on the water and giving them to the shipping company as no one will buy them after the tariffs are imposed. Now, presumably, these products were actually being used in the United States, and they're not going to be available. So on top of what we're going to see in terms of inflation, we may also see like a period of time where there's no products to fill certain niches. You know, we went through that with toilet paper because of just the shifting usage of toilet paper. So much of the toilet paper industry, who knew, was geared towards work. And when no one was going into work and toilet paper wasn't being used there, the logistics were such that the people who supplied commercial toilet paper did not know and did not have the relationships to get them into customer-facing retail outlets. And so we went like a 3-month situation in this country where like we had toilet paper shortages. And there's no like returning to normal here. It's conceivable in 5 or 6 years if there was a motivated government to build the infrastructure, but all our government is motivated to do is to hack away at the administrative state, literally just fired all the industrial planners in our government, and all they're gearing up for is massive tax cuts for wealthy people. And you see how they're all scrambling on the right to sort of justify this. I'm going to hold off until I. Yeah, let's keep watching this. Incidentally, like, I don't know if you've ever seen a tidal wave. Like all of a sudden everything gets eerily quiet and it just sort of draws out. And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, and you don't have time to run at that point.
Oh, look, I watched the president yesterday, even with those miners yesterday, and they're cheering him on as well. Sure. I think the elites have gotten used to a certain lifestyle and what we're invested in the market and all that. But he's fighting for the little guy right now. So I think we may just want to hold on and see what happens. If they start to turn on it, then I think we have a different ball game
like
here.
Caroline said, he's going to punch back. And when China last week, when we have those reciprocal tariffs on them, then China puts reciprocal tariffs on us. So then on Monday, President said, okay, 50% more for you, China. Yeah, we're not playing this game. And they asked, what about China? He said, you know, they're proud people. So they want to negotiate. They're just not. We're working on that now. But and Jamison Greer yesterday, when he testified to the senators, he said, to your point, Steve, to your toy maker, it may be challenging at times, and in a moment of drastic overdue change.
Well, the problem is, you know, like that guy in Idaho, he might have to go out of business.
Well,
and so that's why it's so important that
you reconfigure all the trade. Give you an example. What about the shrimping company? Shrimp has gone out of business.
You can go back.
Well, people go out of business every day. So this guy's selling special needs toys. He's just going to suck it up.
This whole thing where, okay, there's step 1, Trump tanks the economy. Step 2, question mark. Step 3, the working class is saved. No, what if he just tanks the economy and actually things don't get better for working people? Can we maybe skip to that eventuality? Because I think that's probably what it's looking like.
What do we got this now? Jake Sherman. Oh, based on the lack of respect, let's pop this up. Here we go. Off to the races. Here we go. This is, I mean, there's going to be so much pain associated with all of this in one form or another. I hate to like laugh about it, but it's become so ridiculous. So Trump just tweeted out or truthed out. I don't know. Where is this? Is this on Twitter or Truth?
That looks like a truth. Yeah.
This was just 1:18. So this was 10 minutes ago. Based on the lack of respect that China has shown to the world's markets, he means us. I am hereby raising the tariff charge to China by the United States of America to 125% effective immediately. Now, this is how dumb this mother F is. At 104%, everybody, like, we're just reading stories about people abandoning their stuff on the ocean, giving it to the shipping container. Like, this is that extra, you're going from 104% to you're raising it another 19%? Dude, at one point, it doesn't matter. At some point, hopefully in the near future, China will realize that the days of ripping off the USA and other countries, well, I don't think other countries are complaining about this, is no longer sustainable or acceptable. Conversely, and based on the fact that more than 75 countries have called representatives of the United States, including Department of Commerce, Treasury, and the USTR, to negotiate a solution to the subjects being discussed relative to trade barriers, tariffs, currency manipulation, non-monetary tariffs, and that these countries have not, at my strong suggestion, retaliated in any way, shape, or form against the United States, I have authorized a 90-day pause and a substantially lowered reciprocal tariff during this period of 10%, also effective immediately. Thank you for attention to this matter. So in a show of strength, and I say that facetiously, Donald Trump has now rescinded all of these tariffs to just 10%. Now, again, with Donald Trump just rescinding these tariffs, except for against China, and although yesterday he also said he's going to raise them on prescription drugs, incidentally, 40% of prescription drugs coming to this country fully formed, consumer ready, are imports. 80% of all drugs have some element that has been imported into them. The active ingredient, the non-active ingredient, whatever. So a 10% tariff now for 90 days, is it, on every country in the world except for China, which now has a 125% tariff. And this is Trump's, I guess, attempt to isolate China.
What about countries that work with China?
But now we're in a situation where a 10% tariff, all it's going to do is be slightly inflationary. The rest of the world, incidentally, realizes that we're being run by a lunatic who has no strategy and no plan for any of this. So everybody's starting to go like, we need to make a new plan. So we're no longer going to have industry that is built upon where we're getting all these other tariffs, because a 10% differential is not enough to drive an industry, particularly when you're not providing any subsidies. So all it is going to be inflationary. And again, 10% tariffs is going to be inflationary. But we still have morons out there who want to tell us this is going to be helpful to the working class. I give you, what is her name? She was on Bill Maher, saying the same thing. Incidentally, she was also saying Trump was progressive because he was the peace candidate. This is after 3 weeks. That night, I think he started bombing Yemen.
She said he was like FDR in that he was anti-war, which is an interesting read of that history.
And what was the other thing? She said there were three things, like the tariffs and the, I can't remember what.
Anti-war was one.
I can't remember what the other was. But here she is peddling this stuff on News Nation.
Do you know what is so amazing about this whole tariffs saga? The Americans who have the least are willing to say, you know what? Maybe I don't need that extra piece of crap from China. Maybe I'm going to make a little bit less in my 401k.
Pause it
if
for
it
1
means
minute,
that my
I just, if you ever want to check out Walmart or Dollar Tree or one of these stores, you go in there and you watch the elite in their shopping for all their China stuff. I mean, I would love to live in a world where we didn't have this level of disposable goods. But largely, I think there's a decent amount of research suggesting that one of the things that wealth inequality does is increase the hunger for low-cost goods that emulate living a luxurious lifestyle, because you're looking at incredible wealth and then you feel deprived. And places like Walmart, in some way, assuage that. But it's fascinating. She really must be amongst the people.
Totes.
Maybe I'm going to make a little bit less in my 401k if it means that my children have a future. And meanwhile, you look at Wall Street, where people who are losing, yes, a lot of money, but who will, let's be honest, never be poor. In fact, they will never not be rich, no matter how this ends. And they are unwilling to donate a single penny to the future of this nation. It's so utterly backwards. It used to be that the rich had a sense of noblesse oblige. You know what? Maybe we should build a hospital, if only so the peasants don't revolt. But in America, we have this enormous class divide where the top 10% controls over 60% of the GDP and is unwilling to pay a little bit more for the next brand new iPhone, even if it means that their working class neighbors can afford to buy a home. I mean, it is so repulsive.
What's so weird about this and so classic is that, like, yes, I agree. We have a problem with wealth disparity here, without a doubt. But this is not addressing that. It is unclear to me. I mean, I guess if we devalue, I mean, part of the problem is we're devaluing the dollar. We are perhaps juicing inflation, and it's unclear to me how this is going to get the Fed to lower interest rates to allow for housing to be less expensive, or how rents are going to go down when all the inputs have gone up. It's unclear to me, like, where she gets from A to B on any of this stuff. What is it? Is this another one where she's doing?
This is another one. Yeah, this is
with that guy
Schellenberger,
who is also a complete lunatic.
Lunatic, yeah.
What is his argument about this?
He's just listening to her cook and nodding along to her. Basically, there's a lot of fun stuff in this one here.
It's infuriating. I mean, it's utterly infuriating. Our economic policy for the last 60 years was put in place by people who are too lazy to get out from behind their laptops. And so they imagine that nobody would want to work in a factory because they would rather die.
Pause it for 1 second. Incidentally, both these people in front of their laptops as they say this. And I will, again, reiterate, that story from a piece on Gary Cohn, I guess, who was Trump's economic advisor. The Bureau of Labor Statistics has actual data on this. And dollar for dollar, people want to leave manufacturing jobs if they can get a job like these two people have, or like I have, or like anybody in this office has.
What people like about factory jobs was the union benefits.
And the money, yes, yeah. The money and the union benefits. Here's a little secret. Coal miners don't love coal mining. It's just that it was the quickest way to ensure that your family had money. Because they get paid a lot because they pay in essentially their lives.
I remember Batya Unger Sargon coming to the defense of the Bessemer workers that wanted to unionize, say, in the past 5 years.
All right, let's listen to this sort of fantastical notion of how people would rather work in a factory than in an office job. Now, I'm sure there are some people, there's some people who are like, I want to use my hands. I want to work outside or something like that. Or people have different, personal desires. But broadly speaking, as a class, people who work physical jobs just don't live as long as people who work in an office. That's just the case.
Often want their kids to do something else.
And if they can make enough money doing something else, they'll do it.
Laptops. And so they imagine that nobody would want to work in a factory because they would rather die than work in a factory. They would rather die than watch their own children, by the way, or clean their own toilets. So they imagine that no one would want to do these things. And so they shipped manufacturing overseas and imported a slave caste to do all of the service industry jobs. And then they just go out there and insult the millions of Americans who are employed in these actual industries, the millions of Americans who remember their grandparents having a decent living wage and the American dream while working at a meatpacking plant, because that was the job to have back in the day. So it's so disgusting. And then they sit there on Twitter.
Pause it for a second. Of all the jobs you could pick, meatpacking plants have been one of the most sort of horrific work environments that you can work in. The reason why you see child labor laws relaxed is because states that do this, I guarantee you, almost a one-to-one relationship, have large meatpacking plants where they want immigrant teenagers to work because they can't get anybody else to work there.
Upton Sinclair wrote The Jungle about the meatpacking industry. It's sort of famous as like, I don't know when there was ever the time where the
Of all things,
like you could say like, yeah, making vehicles, cars in Detroit, that led to some good meatpacking. No.
Does anybody really want to work in manufacturing? From their $2 million homes that they were able to purchase, Michael, because they, through their policy, shoved the working class out of competition for homes, for an education, and for healthcare, right? So the top 10% now controls over 60% of our GDP. They are not just like the ideal consumer now for the most important things, the most central components of the American dream: housing, healthcare, education, retirement. They are the only consumers now who can afford those things. So the price for those items is tagged to their incomes. Doctors used to marry nurses and lawyers used to marry secretaries. And now doctors marry doctors and lawyers marry lawyers, and they buy up real estate, and real estate is now pegged to their, joint $2 million income, which means that their cleaning lady has to commute 2 hours to
all right, pause it. What do tariffs have to do with this? What do tariffs have to do with this? If you want to deal with wealth inequality, which she's discussing, tax the money away instead of doing a regressive tax on the working class.
Her analysis is there to avoid blaming capitalists. It's all like latte liberals who look down at workers or something like that. It's not professionals marrying other professionals. That is why inequality is so bad. It's because of the structure of our economy.
And we need to tax those people. And we need to be able to make medical school or law school available to a wider class of people by having free options. This is the most roundabout argument I've ever heard. The room is too... I find this color that we've painted this room completely offensive. So what we should do is unscrew all the light bulbs. This is...
She has kind of a Stephen Miller-like stridency to her.
There is a very... it is the stridency of someone realizing, my whole story is falling apart. Donald Trump as the next FDR is falling apart. Let's do number 2. This is Donald Trump. He is at the National Republican Congressional Committee. Apparently he was there to give a 10-minute speech, and he went on for an hour and a half. He has backtracked. Understand, Trump is in a panic now. The panicans, or whatever he called them, panicabans, what did he call them?
Panicans
that he was complaining about 24 hours ago. People didn't have the stomach for these tariffs. He has now become one because China basically said, hey, I got news for you. We don't need you like you think we do.
Kind of been preparing for this, actually.
And so now he has caved on all the other tariffs except for at 10% for 90 days. He is running around now as panicked as everybody around him. Because he's starting to realize that nothing, what did he think was going to happen? And here he is yesterday, and who knows if this is still operative. A certain percentage of our pharmaceuticals come from China. A significant one, but I don't think it's huge. The biggest probably portion that we import is probably from India. I know that we send FDA people over to India and to China to establish that the factories in which these drugs are made are up to U.S. FDA standards. 40% of drugs coming in to this country are wholly imported. 80% of our drugs contain some element that is imported. Here's Trump yesterday. Who knows if this is operative anymore, because half an hour ago, he basically said, I'm just raising stuff on China because people have been really respectful to me, except for China.
And the drug companies listen to him. But we're going to do something that we have to do. We're going to tariff our pharmaceuticals. And once we do that, they're going to come rushing back into our country because we're the big market. The advantage we have over everybody is that we're the big market. So we're going to be announcing very shortly a major tariff on pharmaceuticals. And when they hear that, they will leave China, they will leave other places because they have to sell. Most of their product is sold here. And they're going to be opening up their plants all over the place in our country. We're going to be announcing that. So that's breaking news. Ladies and gentlemen, we have breaking news. That's what's going to happen. What other presidents allow China to get away with?
All right, pause it for 1 second. I just want to okay. So your manufacturing is in India. 80% of our drugs, some part, comes from India. Maybe it's not necessarily the manufacturing. I mean, if 40% come in fully formed, fully manufactured, 60% is probably manufactured here with all sorts of inputs from these countries. Can these inputs come from our country? I don't know. But the idea that you can just start up new factories in this country tomorrow to produce these drugs is absurd. All that's going to happen is maybe these plants will move from China to India, where there's some type of like long-term security where they know that they can have these factories. And all that's going to happen is the drugs are going to cost 10% more. That's it.
And all the patriots will love to pay that every time they need their life-saving drugs. Just 10% more for America.
But at least things will be even. You'll pay more, but I'll feel like we're even. Even Steven. Hold on. Keep going. I got breaking news. Here's
Breaking news. Breaking news. Something. I got a hypothetical.
Breaking news. How many of you people who've lined up behind me, just take a look at there are definitely some of these miners who are laughing, but unless these miners were told, listen, hey guys, very important that you look very somber throughout this entire speech. My suspicion is that these guys are thinking, actually, if I could get paid what I get paid getting a black lung, I probably would want to do something different. Here is Donald Trump explaining to a bunch of miners, you guys don't know how good you have it. You don't know how good. I know how much you love what you're doing. We're going to force states to not be, what is it now? You cannot discriminate against coal. The DOJ is going to investigate states that are prejudiced against coal. Coal is not an acronym. It's not a euphemism. He means coal. States that are prejudiced against it, who have this belief that it's dirty and sooty and
bad for people's lungs.
And bad for people's lungs. That's prejudice. You say you're tolerant, but that sounds intolerant to me, of coal. Here he is in front of a bunch of, is he in West Virginia?
Energy. That's why other countries, leading countries, are using it, some exclusively. For 4 long years, Joe Biden and congressional Democrats tried to abolish the American coal industry. They did everything in their power while he was awake, which wasn't much, shutting down dozens of coal plants, banning coal leases on federal lands, and putting thousands and thousands of coal miners out of work. Destroying their lives, actually. Destroying their lives. I'll never forget when I went to...
Pause it for 1 second. This is in the White House. They imported all these coal miners. He couldn't even be bothered to go down there. Make sure you wear your big uniforms, guys.
Which I won by 48 points, I think, right? Big Jim, I won by 48 points. But in the first campaign where Hillary Clinton was about 4 states too early, and she was talking about how bad coal was and how they were going to teach coal miners how to make widgets and gadgets and technology, which they didn't want to do. They want to mine. One thing I learned about the coal miners, that's what they want to do. You could give them a penthouse on Fifth Avenue and a different kind of a job, and they'd be unhappy. They want to mine coal. That's what they love to do. And she was going to put them in a high-tech industry where you make...
Look at the guys behind him. They're all going, wait, do we have an option of getting a penthouse on Fifth Avenue and working a different job? Yeah. They all seem pretty amused by that joke.
Cell phones and things. I don't know. Do you think he'd be good at that? I don't know. I would be. You don't want to be. And she was brutal about 3 weeks before, but then she had a problem. She went to West Virginia looking for votes, and that was a bad situation. You remember that? And there was a coal miner around the table with his family, and he was in tears because of what they had done to him and his family. And I hope he's still around, but that man made quite an
Probably
impression
not.
on the...
Probably black lung. Oh, incidentally, I think speaking of coal miners, I think I saw this the other day. They just revoked rules to protect coal miners from black lung.
Here's a story, I believe from today, NPR. Coal miners' healthcare hit hard in job cuts to CDC. Sam Petzonk grew up around Southwest Virginia's mining communities, visiting patients with his father. His whole law practice in Oak Hill, West Virginia, exclusively represents coal miners. He often takes cases of people sickened on the job and relies on records gathered by the Respiratory Health Unit of the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health, a division of CDC, that runs the Coal Workers Health Surveillance Program. Let's skip a little bit forward. The 25 people working in that unit were put on immediate administrative leave on April 1st. They're out of jobs, along with 10,000 other federal health workers.
Matt, you don't get it. A coal miner would rather have black lung
than pink lung.
Than have to deal with the pencil-necked geeks at CDC.
What, you want pink lungs? Isn't this for girls?
These coal miners are real men. They want to be gasping for air.
They want asthma.
They named their children mesothelioma. They love it. That's why we cut all support for them. Unbelievable.
I think a Green New Deal would have been better than...
Oh, to work in with solar panels, Matt.
Yeah. Some industry that's not doomed. But, what do I know?
It's just amazing what they're attempting to do here. Here is CNN's Manu Raju. Now, I again, it's going to be interesting to see what these people all say now after they've gone out and said these tariffs are great. These tariffs are important, and now Trump has backed off all of them except for the Chinese one, and done a 10% in a 90-day. Who knows?
I'm sure that.
But now all of their opinions about how this was great for the working class, they have to revise. But this is from yesterday, so I imagine if he went back to him, would be like, "Oh, this is a good idea. Actually, this is a good idea. 10% is actually the number we want." Go ahead.
These other countries may have to suffer through our tariffs. We'll see if they lead to higher prices or not. I mean, President Trump imposed a bunch of tariffs in his first term, and they
don't think they're going to raise prices here at home?
Well, I think it depends on how competitive it is. I mean, maybe American companies will get to lower prices. Your question is, are people at home, are they
Pause it for a second.
ride with the president on this?
Matt, can you explain to me the math on how, if tariffs don't cause foreign products to raise their prices, how does that let American companies or incentivize American companies to lower theirs?
Because American companies were waiting for this to release these superhuman robots that do all the work for very cheaply.
Okay, I get it. I mean, Josh Hawley's considered serious on these things, right? I mean, give me a break.
Yeah.
Companies will get to lower prices. Your question is, are people at home, are they willing to ride with the president on this? I think they are.
What about higher prices? Are your constituents willing to stomach that?
Well, I think anytime you're going to have a change in the status quo, there's going to be some disruption by definition. And but I think how this story ends is the most important thing, and hopefully it ends quickly.
So do you think your voters will be okay with paying more?
Well, again, if it's short term and it results in a better position in the U.S., I think they're willing to do it. But long term has an effect. So I'm hoping it's short term, and I'm hoping they're effective.
So that's the big question here, Richard. What does short term mean? Yeah. Will the voters actually do what these members are saying, that they'll be okay with paying more at the grocery store?
But they keep saying short term effective, but nobody has said what effective at what?
Yeah, what happens?
Like, what is the goal of this? 3 weeks ago, Howard Lutnick was on television saying we're going to raise $600 billion a year with these tariffs. Which it's possible, like, I mean, it's like physically possible if everybody decides that they want to pay higher prices for this stuff. And they pay this tax essentially, but now then none of them seems to be talking about the money it's supposed to raise. They're all talking about it being just effective at what? This is there's no there.
It's two-faced and both faces are lies.
That's impressive. Like, I think what they mean by effective is this just all goes away.
Things will go back to normal, you know.
Now, imagine being in any type of business right now and you've got a 90-day reprieve and it's down to a 10% tariff. Guess what you're doing? You're going to lay off people.
Downshift.
You're going to downshift. If you're a small business, you're not going to, all you're going to do is contract and try and weather the storm.
I mean, hypothetically, any company that thought the tariffs were going to go in and was going to build a factory on it would be like, wait, I thought you said there was tariffs and now you just got rid of all of them. So maybe
exactly.
I shouldn't do the factory.
I'm not going to do the investment. Hold off. Wait, stop. Everybody
I'll check in 85
move.
days.
Like, everybody's frozen. All of these business people are frozen right now. I mean, I am so old that I remember when even talk of raising taxes by like 3 percentage points or 5 percentage points on corporate created insecurity. What was it? What was the phrase they used all the time? We need predictability. We need predictability. The business community needs predictability. This is insanity. It is total insanity. What was the phrase that they used over and over and over again?
It's like business confidence or...
Yes, there needs to be confidence. We're shaking business confidence because they don't know. They don't know whether they're going to have corporate tax rates at 28% or 32%. Jules, my great-grandfather died of black lung when my grandfather was 14. My great-grandmother had to raise 7 kids on the salary of a seamstress in the charity of the Catholic Church. Interesting how none of those kids wanted to be coal miners, and all those kids went to college and got jobs in offices.
And well, they got woke.
Yes, uncertainty. Ideal Paradox, Sam, please say he lost the trade war. We effing nailed him. I mean, he did. We all lost the trade war. Gango friends, I repeatedly hear conservatives say that U.S.-based goods will go down in price. These people don't even understand foundational economic ideas like supply and demand. With tariffs, demand is going to skyrocket while supply goes down for American goods. This means skyrocketing prices. Particle from Brooklyn. What Trump sycophants who previously lauded the tariffs will say now is that Trump won bigly. He got the whole world to make the trade concessions he was seeking, and now the economy is going to be so much better for working people. Brennan from Missouri. DEI has gotten so powerful, we're even turning miners' lungs black. Tim in Toronto. Sam dropped that mesothelioma line, and I nearly dropped my weights right on my head. You can't be funny mid-pump, Sam. People must be going just absolute bat crap crazy now that he's reversed himself so quickly.
It's like a COVID shock, but just
every like 36 hours. We've succeeded with our tariff policy because we have no more tariffs. We're back to zero. We're back to what we were 3 weeks ago.
You can tell we won because my phone's blowing up and everyone's being very nice to me.
Just amazing. Let's, I'm going to turn on the phones. Folks, the, oh, we got to turn that thing on, right? Oh. Number 646-257-3920, 646-257-3920 is the number. Do you remember the story about Elon Musk paying somebody to be good at video games on his behalf, like with his handle, so that he would appear to be a video game champ? I actually feel bad for Musk in this situation, and I'll tell you why.
The 60-year-old Elon Musk playing video games and embarrassed.
When my daughter was a kid, she didn't get into the middle school that she wanted to in New York City. It was very, very competitive. This is public schools. They've since changed it in District 15. And she was upset. All her friends were going to one school. She didn't go to that school. So she went home to get on Instagram, which was her escape. But of course, on Instagram, all her friends were posting how excited they were to go to the school that she didn't go to. And it was very difficult on her. So I can only imagine that Elon Musk, in trying to prove he was worthy in a in a game populated by teenagers, which is fine. I love games. He streamed Path of Exile 2. Look at what
he had the chat live, and you can put this up on the wide, Russ. You can see some of the things being commented there.
They are just relentless in, like, you ruined Twitter. You got to admit that the new Elon, if you made a meme, I can't. You ruined marriages.
We'll play a little bit here. This is from a TikTok user, UFO.
You ruined the country just like you ruined all of your marriages.
Anyone's spamming the chat.
He's doing a lot of ignoring on the chat.
I like that he has to. He gets somebody else to play his games for him, but he has to moderate his own chat.
Yeah. Elon, you suck so much. I mean, he's going on and on. What did you do to your? What did you do to make your daughter trans? How do you feel about? Are you bringing Kekis Maximus back to
It is a bunch of like racist guys and stuff
Yeah.
too. Elon, how is it possible to
possible?
look this dumb and ugly?
Tesla company falling apart. Ah, ha, ha. What happened, buddy? He's ignoring.
Elon, it's me, Ashley St. Clair. I have no other means. This is a copy and paste of one of his.
Please pay your child support. Thank you. Oh my God.
I have no other means of contact. It's even looking.
You have no real friends and will die alone. Oh my God. Look, this cyberbullying has got to stop.
Yep.
Except for in his case.
Until the result.
Boy, oh boy. Calling from a 785 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from? 785.
Hi, this is Dakota from Kansas.
Dakota from Kansas. What's on your mind?
Sam, I've been wanting to talk to you about Social Security for a while.
Okay.
So a consideration that like I've been making, I've heard y'all talk about the actuarial tables and like how much a person can expect to get in, but like also been talking quite a bit about like the Republican plan to privatize it. So I'm just curious, like how sturdy you think those systems are, and if there is like a Republican playbook for like how to privatize it, like what does that actually mean for like the average worker?
Well, I don't know what you mean by system sturdy. I mean, I do have some very big concerns about them trying to go in and in 6 months redo the sort of technical infrastructure of Social Security. Everything I've read suggests that the computer language that they use, while it's like a little clunky, it is rock solid. And so in that regard, I have some concerns. How would they privatize? I think
like, is that like a 2025 thing? They've got, I don't know if there's like, I haven't read the whole plan.
Well, I mean, you can go back to the 1936 Republican platform and you will see essentially the long-term plan. It hasn't changed dramatically since then. They want to gut the system. But the big thing I think they would probably do is try and move it into the stock market. And the idea being is that there would be an ebb and flow at different times where it looks like there's more money in that fund than otherwise. It would be obviously largely unpredictable because the stock market is not that predictable. It is over the course of any given set of multiple decades, but people are retiring all the time. People are retiring this week. And if they were retiring this week or this month, their 401k has been devastated in many respects. So, this is, they would move it into the stock market largely. There's a huge, obviously, bonus for whoever the different funds that would manage this money, right? I mean, all the fees associated with it. That's probably the way that they would privatize.
Okay. I appreciate you taking my call. Twitch chat said that they would blackball me if I didn't say poggers.
Poggers, appreciate the call.
Thank you.
Calling for a 501 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Sam.
Hi, who's this? Where are you calling from?
This is, okay, awesome. This is Caleb from Harrison, Arkansas.
Caleb from Harrison, Arkansas. What's on your mind?
Well, real quick, first off, I wanted to get a joke in, but while it's still timely, we're talking about Elon Musk buying Twitter. We don't know what to call a tweet anymore. It just seems obvious to me. Now that it's called X, you call it excrete.
Okay, excrete. I like it. An excretion.
Yeah, exactly. Like Donald Trump was on the toilet excreting at 3:15 last night.
Oh yes, believe me, I know what excretion. But go ahead.
It's just a shame Emma wasn't here to appreciate that.
I know. Yes, she laughed.
I know, right? All right, but my main point, I called and left a message. I don't know how often you check your voicemails, but there is a bill being voted on actually in 15 minutes here in Arkansas. SB 290. It's about the watershed on the Buffalo River. We've already been through this whole thing. We spent $6.2 million to buy out the hog farm to prevent them from being set up on the watershed of the Buffalo, and it's like Fern Gully 2. It's coming back. They're trying to lift the moratorium, and I've been trying to get a hold of people, tell them to call their congressman as fast as possible because it's going to be voted on very soon.
They're state representatives, I would imagine. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And it's. I mean, here in Arkansas, where I'm from, the affected area, there are people that are extremely poor. I grew up with kids that grew up in a dirt floor house. A couple of them lived in, literally one of them lived under a rock, and a couple of them lived in hollowed out buses. They have nothing there. So if you take away the Buffalo River, there's nothing left. There's no place to go to do anything, to leisure time. You're Anyway.
All right, well, people call your Arkansas representatives, and what's the bill again?
SB 290.
Vote for or against SB 290?
Against.
Vote against SB 290. And I should say, and I appreciate the call, Caleb, when you call a state rep or state senator, like, your call is pound for pound. It makes a big difference. 10 people call, 5 people call one state rep. They're going to be like, whoa. They have some type of algorithm. That's the way it works. Calling from a 615 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hey, this is Tyler from Asheville, North Carolina.
Tyler from Asheville, North Carolina. What's on your mind?
Hey, I just had a question. I don't think I've heard anybody talk about this yet, but, is it time for Democrats in Congress to start bringing impeachment articles for Trump? Seems like he's definitely breaking some, more than just norms, laws, and constitutional amendments and things. Anyway.
I think Al Green already did, actually.
Okay.
But I think, listen, there's no Republicans are going to vote on this. And
sure.
It's all well and good, but it really doesn't mean anything until Democrats are in power. But, we've seen the efficacy of these impeachments, and they're minimal.
Good point. So politically, it's not going to do anything.
I don't know. Did it do anything last time? Maybe it did last time, but I just don't think it's going to have the same impact this time around.
Diminishing returns, and also didn't do that much to Bill Clinton, did it? Am I misremembering that?
No, for Bill Clinton, it actually helped him. But that was also a function of what it was. Appreciate the call.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks. Let's see if we can get one more call in. Yeah, we got time. Calling from a 423 area code. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
It's Matty Moron in Tennessee. Can you hear me?
Matty Moron in Tennessee. What's on your mind?
Nothing. I've got two quick things. The first is a story I think should be on your radar. I can't believe you guys haven't covered it yet. Did y'all see the Vermont sheriff's deputy that hit and killed a cyclist while he was watching a Matt Walsh YouTube video on his dashboard display?
No.
I saw a tweet about that now that you mention it.
Yeah, you should consider covering that if you find the time.
He was driving and watching a video at the same time? A cop was?
Yeah, I don't know if it was on like the dashboard display or their little fucking cop computers they got that sit there, little laptops, but...
Jeez.
It was Trans Woman Confronting Matt Walsh Takes Unexpected Turn is the title of the video.
Psychos.
And then the other thing was just the point that you had raised in the Matt Duss interview, which is about Iran acquiring a nuclear deterrent. And it seems to me like there's absolutely no security guarantees that the United States could give them that they could trust at all. So I don't think there's really any way around that. And I don't know how they, as like rational state actors, don't acquire a nuke.
I mean, I don't know either, to be honest with you. I mean, like I think the only thing that they may be considering is that there would be enough European pushback that any type of like sort of serious attack on them by Israel and America, who it would come from, is just too high a hill for them for Israel and America to do. But I mean, I get your skepticism. Like
I just don't know how they could look at everything that's happened in the last year and a half and have any confidence in the Europeans pushing back at all.
I agree. I agree. I mean, that was why I asked them the question. I'm like, they for 20 years they have made the active choice not to get a weapon, and maybe they just think that is the safest place for them to be. I don't know. Maybe it's I've heard different things, in terms of like I don't know if it was the Ayatollah that was like, the nuclear weapon is contrary to Islam. I don't know if that's what it is. I don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I think that it obviously drives instability in the lead up to them getting one, but I think once they got it, it might actually constrain Israel a little bit in the region. But
it might. I don't know. I appreciate the call, man.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye. Okay,
maybe they're worried it would do the opposite.
That's the other thing. It's like they've been safe up to this point. All right, let's play this video. This is Representative Stephen Horsford. I don't know where he comes from. He is in the right now in the Ways and Means Committee hearing. U.S. Trade Representative Greer, right? This is the second one, Matt. Yep. And he is testifying about the tariffs, why Trump has imposed on the entire world these exorbitant tariffs. And while he's testifying to that effect, Trump tweets out that actually we're putting in a moratorium on all the tariffs that are not against China. We're taking China's to 125. We're going to just do 10% for everybody for the next 90 days and then maybe go back. Like, there's such an intense lack of planning associated with this, aside from, of course, there's also an intense lack of agenda. But here is Horsford to Greer.
Mr. Trade Representative, are you aware that the tariffs have been paused?
I am, yes.
When were you made aware of that?
Well, I understood the decision was made a few minutes ago. It's
sitting here
under discussion.
Sitting here under discussion. So did you know that this was under discussion, and why did you not include that as part of your opening remarks?
So typically what I don't do is divulge the contents of my discussions with
What are the
President
details of the pause?
Well, my understanding is that because so many countries have decided not to retaliate, we're going to have about 90 days.
No, excuse me? China increased their tariffs on the United States. Trump blinked.
What's the blink, sir?
What do you know about this pause? What are the details of it?
Pause it for a second. Listen. The reason why we're not doing tariffs is because they didn't respond to the tariffs. So the reason why I'm not going to sanction you is because you didn't sanction us back. And so everything we just did was just to see. It was a test. It was a test. It was a test. It's like a test. Like when you're dating somebody, do you want to see if this person really cares about you or not? So you pretend like it's your birthday and see if they bring you a present. And if they bring you a present, then you say, yes, good job, but it's not my birthday, so you don't have to give me that present. Go ahead.
China increased their tariffs on the United States. Trump blinked.
What's the blink, sir?
What do you know about this pause? What are the details of it?
Well, the details, as I understand it, is that China continues to retaliate. Other countries didn't retaliate. The president 2 or 3 days ago said we wanted to negotiate with those countries that asked for meetings. That's what we're doing.
What are the details? How long is the pause? How many days? How many weeks?
I understand it's 90 days. I haven't spoken to the president since I've been.
So the trade representative hasn't spoken to the president of the United States about a global reordering of trade.
Yes, I have. I've just been in the hearing with you.
But yet he announced it on a tweet. WTF? Who's in charge?
The president of the United States is in charge.
And what do you know about those details?
Well, as I mentioned,
it looks like your boss just pulled the rug out from under you and paused the tariffs, the taxes on the American people. There's no strategy. You just found out 3 seconds ago, sitting here, we saw you.
We've been discussing a variety of
If you came here knowing that you were going to be turned off, that these tariffs were going to be turned off, why didn't you include that in your opening statement? Why didn't you reference that as part of your testimony?
Well, I don't disclose my conversations with
Surprise!
the president. These
I
were
wanted to be a
specific
surprise.
questions we asked you all along. What's the strategy? These are real consequences for the American people and small businesses. I had a group of small businesses in my office.
Just make a quick point. Like, if he can't divulge what he's talking about with the president vis-a-vis trade, why is he there?
Also, of course he can. Of course he can. Like, the fact, I mean, it's almost as if Trump wanted to humiliate him. The fact that he announced it on Twitter, like without telling him that he was going to announce it. Like the guy could have said, there's going to be an announcement in half an hour, so everybody hold your horses.
Wait, who's Greer?
Greer?
Did I know that guy?
You know, his voice sounds a little mousy. The president is in charge. It sounds a little mousy, doesn't he? We need somebody bigger, somebody tougher, like a coal miner. But unfortunately, they don't want to have a better job. They don't want to work in an office. It's too bad, because a lot of those coal miners look like big, strong guys who could be a trade representative. But they love sucking in the coal, as I call it. That's what I call it, sucking in the coal. Happy birthday. Here's your mesothelioma. Go ahead.
Office earlier today talking about the impacts of these tariffs on aluminum and steel. This is amateur hour, and it needs to stop. What does this even mean for your negotiating strategy? How are you in charge of negotiation if the president is tweeting about this from wherever the hell he is?
The president was elected, and he runs the trade policy, and I advise him and execute his
Who
trade
executes
policy.
the trade policy?
I execute the trade
Did you
policy.
know that this was happening?
We have been discussing all kinds of.
And there's another member of the cabinet, Bessent, who just canceled coming to the Hill to avoid talking about the market because it's in turmoil. This in just days because there was no strategy.
You know, strategy, smermashadity. You gotta be nimble. You gotta be quick on your feet.
Strategy's right in my brain, okay?
Did I tell you that my uncle went to MIT? This is, here is, look, obviously some low-level guy like the head of trade in the country, you can't expect him to know that this universal, massive, remember, They were bragging that we got phone calls from 50 countries. They imposed trade tariffs on, what was it, like 100 and some odd countries? You cannot expect this guy to know that they completely reversed on all of these except for China, because he's low level. He's just the guy in charge of trade. What we need to do is hear from the Secretary of Treasury so that we can get the story straight, because he's the one who knows what's going on. Let's hear from Scott Bessent.
Secretary Bessent, can you explain more of the decision making on what feels like a reversal here? I mean, just these went into effect less than 15 hours ago, these tariffs. Why the pause now? What led to that?
No. Again, President Trump created maximum negotiating leverage for himself, and which tariffs went into effect 15 hours ago? The ones that we have lowered went into effect a week ago. They were announced a week ago, and we've just been overwhelmed by the response from mostly our allies who want to come and negotiate in good faith.
So in other words, we weren't prepared for anybody to come back and negotiate. There's just no way in which this looks good. And again, we still don't understand. Like the 10% tariffs, I guess they're now 10% tariffs, are just going to be inflationary. They're not going to spur any U.S. manufacturing. Like what is the goal of this? We don't know. We don't have any clue. It's completely nuts. Here is, should we do this Bernie Sanders?
Yeah, this is good. This is Bernie yesterday talking to Greer.
I am not a great fan of unfettered free trade. I helped lead the effort when I was in the House against NAFTA and against permanent normal trade relations with China. I will never forget a visit that I made to the Macadillo area in Mexico, where I saw brand new factories and literally Mexican workers living in cardboard boxes. And the result, of course, was the loss of hundreds of thousands of jobs, good paying jobs in this country, transferring them to Mexico where people work for horrendous wages. That is the type of trade policy which I detest. But I want to move to an area to talk about the legal basis of what President Trump has done. President Trump said, Mr. Greer, that he had no choice in terms of Canada. And I live 50 miles away from the Canadian border. He had no choice but to bypass Congress and to impose an emergency 25% tariff on Canada to stop, quote, the massive, end quote, amount of fentanyl and, quote, the millions and millions of undocumented immigrants coming from the northern border. Unfortunately, that's a lie. The truth is that the U.S. Customs and Border Protection reported just 43 pounds of fentanyl was seized at the Canadian border last year, representing just 0.2% of the total. Now, we could agree that 1 pound of fentanyl is too much. But if 0.2% constitutes an emergency, my guess is illegal drugs are coming in from every country in the world. And that gives the President of the United States incredible power to determine tariffs. Further, he said he talked about millions and millions of undocumented immigrants coming from Canada. In fact, last year there were 24,000 people, not millions and millions. First question, really, we can argue about tariffs, but why does the president have to lie all of the time in order to make his point?
So, Senator, I would just refute that when the president is talking about the nature of the emergency we have. I mean,
Could you talk a little bit closer into the mic, please?
Certainly. Senator, I would just say, I think you need to look at what the president issued in terms of the order for the legal basis for what we're doing, right? I mean, the president very rightly hit on this issue of fentanyl migration coming from northern and southern borders, and it's a real emergency.
Okay, let's now, literally, that was yesterday. Less than 24 hours later, we find out that whole basis was a lie because he's rolled back the tariffs on Canada and Mexico based upon them not issuing reciprocal responses on the tariff raising. It's all just a lie.
So invoking illegal immigration, fentanyl, just for politics.
Meanwhile, the stock market apparently has surged for its biggest rally in 5 years based upon this. So all of Trump's, crypto boys who bought the dip, they're doing quite well right now. We were saying like several weeks ago, this is like a big pump and dump.
Right. And if you knew when he was going to be, putting the clamps down and loosening them up, you'd stand to win some money if you played it right.
I'm sure he kept it close to the vest. I wonder how much like Donald Trump Jr. has made on the market in the past 6 weeks. Folks, we don't have any more time for phone calls. Apologies. Thank you all. We did not keep anybody holding for more than 28 minutes today, which is which in my mind is a pretty good number. El Conniption. Michael Brooks's Bernie impression is going off at Bernie telling the shrimp to lean into the mic. Sam, about pharmaceuticals, think something like an EpiPen. This is a combination of sterile auto-injector and active ingredient. Even companies that make their product here often import injectors. Exactly.
That's the thing. Like even things I think like New Balance making shoes here, I don't think they get all the materials from America.
Sinners Club. Hey, folks, death penalty abolitionists here. Just wanted to say you can call Governor Henry McMaster at 803-734-2100 to oppose the execution of Mikhail Mahdi. 803-734-2100. You can also visit Death Penalty Action's website to sign a petition that will be emailed to the governor. He's scheduled for execution on April 11th. So if you can, rally. Let's put that in the podcast description. Can we do that, Russ? I'm going to try and IM that to you. But you can find that in the chat. But there it is for today. Al Conniption. Did Brian Thompson write these new tariffs? I don't know. Michael, oh yeah. Oh, I got that already. Hopeful one. They say he paused the tariffs. Yep. Liz Cheney.
Thompson was the United Healthcare CEO.
Oh. I work for a plumbing supply company. Parts and supply prices went up by 2 to 5% after the Mexico and Canada tariffs. Now prices are going up 10 to 30%, and we're not going to be buying some items, at least for a while. Plumbing and air conditioning prices are rising sharply, and less people are going to be buying them. Conservatives will say he did it. He got concessions from the other countries. It's so dumb.
Again, like that works for like a day, but when people realize like, oh, everything's more expensive now, and there's not a roaring manufacturing job economy that's coming, like, yeah, you know.
I mean, look, again, there's going to be 45% of the people who vote for Donald Trump who are not going to care what the outcome of any of this is. They're going to buy into some narrative that this all worked out well. But there's nothing he can do to salvage how stupid this has all been. And Bernard, whatever happened to all the experts on the conservative side, how capitalism and free markets require both producers and consumers to be able to calculate their incentives and costs and to anticipate market needs, to react rationally regarding materials, limits, and rules. Now the godly Republicans give us ham-handed interference in the markets and completely unpredictable costs and regulations.
It's because all that stuff about free markets was a lie.
Bullshit! Ainsley, we're not playing this game. We are literally playing this game. Logan Soy. Just logged onto the YouTube stream. Who's this guy Ian Vaush is pretending to be? I'm not sure I follow that. Oh, Dus. Blair Mountain Joyer. I used to play Monopoly a lot as a kid. My sister would put 4 houses on all our properties and never upgrade to hotels. So eventually there would be no houses to buy. Without the houses, you can't upgrade to hotels. So if she got her monopolies first, she dominated the game. I'm not sure what the metaphor is here, but Dave Rubin's a fucking moron. All right, 10 more. That's smart about the houses. JJ, I hope all businesses going forward itemize on bills and receipts a line for tariffs to show people what's going on.
I can say a company that I purchase from, Fabletics, puts a nice little tariff surcharge so you know exactly how much you're adding to your orders.
Ericano, Yanis Varoufakis is a proponent of the crypto angle in regard to devaluation of the dollar. If the listener wants to flesh out his gummy time. Yeah, I wonder if we should have him on. He's got some sort of interesting takes on all of this. Teacher Dan, 20. Whoa, it was silent for a second. So you think there'll be some strategic martial law declarations for midterms after Republicans decide Soros was paid enough of those embarrassing protests? Listen, I can't predict even 6 weeks out from now. I really can't. Chicago letter carrier, please turn up the volume on the guest. It's a little late. Sorry. All my coworkers could talk about this morning is how much their supplemental retirement funds have suffered in the last 2 months. Yeah.
This should be more patriotic.
Sam Cedar Simp. My grandpa died in lung cancer at 59 after working coal mines his whole life. How much more we got? 6. Let's go. Adam, why don't you bring on Alex Preen anymore? I like his takes. He seemed to be like a good journalist. Yeah, I got to look. I'm not sure what Alex is doing these days. Majid, bring back RoboCop. Who's that? PCT Joe, at least we finally know when Trump thinks America was great. Early 30s.
I mean, he pegs it from the 1870s, which is about the start of the end of Reconstruction.
Shame for that News Nation guest that the U.S. doesn't have any way to compel the wealthy to contribute more money to the federal government unless, oh yeah. Kowalski from Nebraska. Even though we're going to lose beef and pork exports, we expect the price of beef and pork in the United States, which should be an oversaturated market, to still increase in price because distributors are monopolies and maintain their incomes with the loss of international trade. They'll just simply raise the prices domestically. This is all inflationary. Sam, if we devalue the dollar, that helps exports, but it makes imports more expensive because our purchasing power goes down. Astroki. Today, Jared Isaacman was confirmed as head of NASA. There is a huge problem in astronomy and academia itself that's bottlenecked by the budget cuts. In addition to surveilling our social media, our communications via text message, or Slack, and the erasure of women and people of color from the agency's websites. They made us throw away all pride stickers printed for the Roman mission and required us to take down any posters or memorabilia that shows a rainbow or features a woman. They've also canceled permanent positions that were open for postdocs. There's already a 10% chance of staying in astronomy post-PhD, and now they're making it impossible for the young and new generation to lead the future of astronomy and space sciences. I am one of those astronomers who's about to have 0 options to continue in science. I'm so sorry. Horrible. All right, 3 more. Rob from Minneapolis. I thought most of our pharmaceuticals were made in Puerto Rico. Where do foreign tariffs come into play here? The majority might be, but we gave you those numbers. Sith Bunny 36. What happened to Bradley? Bradley has moved on. Russ is here now. Labor Lover 420. Market stability membership. Market stability. I remember Michael making fun of a rich guy that said he just wanted no bumps in the road as a response to the Green New Deal. I wonder what he's thinking today. And the final IM of the day. Cast Iron Jake. Don't know if you guys covered it, but they block the sale of public lands in the Senate. Everyone should be keeping an eye on anywhere they normally like to go, as most lands we recreate on aren't national parks. If you know a hunter who leans conservative, tell them they're losing their hunting lands, etc. All right, folks. Matt, Russ, great job today. Emma will be here tomorrow. Folks, we'll see you then.